Hey there, everyone. This is Dave Dubeau. Welcome to another episode of the Property Profits Real Estate Podcast. Today, it's my pleasure to be interviewing Jason Yarusi. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. Where are you calling in from today?
Wonderful New Jersey, which
Awesome.
we're having sun today too, which will take anything right now besides the rain.
Exactly. It's been a long, long winter. So Jason is an accomplished real estate entrepreneur in his own right. He focuses on multifamily properties with his lovely wife, Pili. They have over 200 units in their portfolio and growing, and they focus primarily on the New Jersey market. So Jason, really looking forward to having a quick chat with you today, a little bit about what you're up to and what your big takeaways have been when it comes to real estate investing. But let's get started first with, just tell us, because it sounds like you're kind of a world traveler. How did you get dialed into real estate and real estate investing?
Things happen in their own way, as you can imagine, right? And so you figure out you figure a course for your life, and then life figures a course for you. So I do.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, exactly. So Pili and I met working in New York City. So Pili's from Hawaii. Crazy enough, they call New Jersey the Hawaii of the East, or at least I tell her. And for that, we met in New York City some about 18 years ago now, or actually almost maybe 16 years ago now. Let's not get that wrong, right? Met running bars and lived that life for a while, and we both had separate lives. And she moved away and then came back to New York City, and we became a couple and got married, and things went that direction. But in that meantime, here in New Jersey, my dad has a heavy construction business. He does a very core focus of lifting, moving buildings. Happens a lot in Canada too. You guys lift and move a lot of buildings up there, a lot of big players. We do it a lot here for flooding reasons. Back in 2013, 2012, 2013, we had Hurricane Sandy, which decimated the East Coast. When that happened, my father's business got so overwhelmed based on just the need to be able to go out and help people, just incoming calls coming in, and just going from 12, 13 lifts a year to over 100.
Wow.
That my brother and myself, we came out and started working for the family business, really just to help him push forward. Fast track there, a couple years into that, construction is a wonderful beast, but as anything, a lot of these activities where it's laborious, if you're not doing something, you're not making money. So looking at just the complexity of this business and the overhead, the insurances and everything, and just we could have worked 24, 25, 26 hours a day if it allotted us 7 days a week with all the work to help owners. And we're still busy doing that. But we wanted to find some passivity in our life.
Mhm.
Just find another option for ourselves to be able to do something where if I wasn't out there working Saturday, Sunday, every day, that I still had an option to be able to create wealth for our family and bring in cash flow. Of course, we started with flips, and that just becomes just as active as just having another job as we were doing it. Then started learning about having some rentals, started doing some small rentals out of state, and having these small rentals out of state and setting up teamwork for them. I just had this moment where I was like, well, if I can do this with a 2 and a 3 family out in Indiana, well, what's stopping me from usually these economies of scale and jumping to 100 units? And that was the first start, learn those processes, find that way that we went from having, a 2 unit, a 3 unit, and jumping to our first large purchase was a 94 unit.
Wow, that is a big jump. Holy smokes. So you've kind of touched on it, but why do you like, or why do you focus on larger multifamily properties versus flips versus smaller multifamilies versus the gazillion other ways people do real estate investing?
Sure. Yeah. And there's so many different options, right? And it just comes down to you do have to have that focus after a while, because you're either going to be marginal at many or just really excel at one. So for us, just learning this process, large multifamily gives you the opportunity to have cash flow, appreciation, debt pay down, depreciation, and tax benefits. There's so many different options that's available to you with buying multifamily. Now, if you look at large multifamily versus small multifamily, both have benefits. But if you say have a 2-family, well, if one unit goes vacant, you're basically 50% occupied. You only have one roof covering 2 units now, or one HVAC possibly, or maybe 2 covering 2 units. Where on a larger property, now you have one roof that's maybe covering 30, 40, 50 units. With the larger properties, you can also treat them like a business, Whereas in a small property, if say you have a plumbing issue, well, now you have to call that plumber. The plumber's got to run out, assess the issue, figure out the parts. If he doesn't have them, run to the store, run back, figure it out. And now you're just racking up these bills because you can't really afford to hire a proper staff. Well, having a large multifamily property, maybe in some markets over 65 units, in some markets over 100 units, you can afford to have a full-time leasing person, a full-time maintenance person, or even more that are afforded by the expenses of the property that's basically being paid by the rents of your tenants. And now when basically a moderate repair comes up, it can be handled in-house. So really your economies of scale that much greater compared to the smaller properties.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, it sounds like you did a lot of things right from the very get-go, and I mean, it's always 2020 hindsight, but knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently?
I would have pushed a little bit more to get quicker there. And so the thing that I feel that people should do listening is that find people that are doing successfully what you want to do, right? And so could I have made this jump on my own, not surrounding myself with like-minded people? Sure. But would have the learning curve have been a lot greater and would have taken me a lot longer? Sure. Yes, it would. But to be able to find people that are doing what you want to do successfully and seeing how you can help them, but also having them in your corner where you can ask them these questions that can help you along the way. And sometimes the questions aren't even big questions. They may be questions that are so small in the picture, but to you at that particular moment, they're giant, right? They're these giant questions you don't know the answer to, and they can stop your momentum. Where if you look back on those questions, maybe a year or 2 years later, they're so minimal in your step that if you didn't have that person on the side that could just say, oh, it's not a big deal, here's the answer, it would propel you to a complete different track and kind of set you off from your ultimate goal.
Yeah. Again, I think a lot of people have that challenge of just finding that focus in the first place. There's so many options out there. There's so many people doing so many different things, and they all look fun and exciting and sexy. So, uh, I know you work with people and you guys run a really big meetup group in New Jersey. So what kind of advice do you give to newbies on how do they get that focus in the first place? Because that's a big challenge I've seen, at least with people, myself included at times.
And me too, right? Shiny objects where, you're all over the place. Okay, are we doing tax liens? Are we doing flips? Are we doing wholesales? Are we doing lease options? Are we doing Airbnbs? And that's just a big thing, right? And we wanted to have our meetup focus specifically on multifamily. But even within the multifamily space, you have people that, are they focusing on here in New Jersey? Are they in Oklahoma? Are they focused on 10 units? Are they focused on 30 units? Are they trying to wholesale apartment buildings? And my advice to them is that you don't know what you don't know. So find something that you like and just that you think you like and give it 6 months. If you want to focus on the Oklahoma market, okay, dive in and be all in on Oklahoma, be the king or queen of Oklahoma, find the submarkets you work in. If you want to focus on 30 units, go after 30 units, go after all those and make that work. Within 6 months, if you don't like that, well, pivot. You don't realize how quick 6 months goes, but right now, if you're going to focus on nothing, well, 6 months is going to fly by and you're really not going to accomplish anything. At least at the end of 6 months, you'll either be well ahead in the game or find out what you don't like. Either which way will help you along your journey.
So when people think, like, I mean, that was a huge jump that you took from focusing on duplexes and triplexes and whatnot out of state to jumping into your first really big deal. I think you said 95 units. Is that right?
94, correct.
Well, yeah. Pretty close.
Really close. Yeah, right, same thing.
It's significantly bigger than a triplex. So how did you just because most people think about, go, holy crap, that's like, how do you make that leap? So how do you make that leap mentally and then also financially? I mean, did you and the family have really deep pockets? Did you work with joint venture partners, investor partners? Did you syndicate? How did you jump in? How did you make that leap from small to big so fast?
Well, you're absolutely right. It was first the mindset, right? That's the first thing, to tell myself I can do that. And when you realize it's just more zeros, and it actually gets easier the larger you go, right? Just as we spoke about the economies of scale, also from a lender perspective, well, lenders are looking at these properties like as a business as well, right? So they want to make sure that the property can sustain itself, and then now look at Jason as the general partner on the project and make sure that he's, of course, he has at least some track record, whether it be in business or other. And then beyond that, he's not a bad actor, doesn't have bankruptcies or other things in the past. But if I'm looking at a 2-unit or even a single family home, now it's all about me. It's all about my tax returns. It's all about me, and it's more difficult for me to go out and buy, my own personal residence than it is for me to buy a 94 unit. just based on now property is being focused on, instead of me and wanting to know, okay, how many kids I have, what my car payments are, and all these ridiculous things and all these ridiculous
Right.
that are endless.
And so it sounds like you've got as much of a financial proctology exam for financing in the States as we do up here in Canada. It's a
We
nightmare.
sure
Man.
do. Yeah, we sure do. And it's endless, right? Depending on some lenders, it's even more. But yeah, it's absolutely right. And we do syndicating our deals, which means that we pool resources from a group of investors so we can all benefit from buying large properties and benefit from the economies of scale. So generally, we act as a general partnership and we bring on limited partners. We do invest in our deals as well, but we have limited partners who will bring in money that will cover the down payment, fees, capital expenditures, closing costs. And then we'll partner all that equity with some kind of debt structure based on the property.
Makes sense. Very good. Now, that must have been quite a learning curve if you hadn't done it before. I mean, doing your first syndication must have been kind of a big deal. So I imagine you got some help or some coaching or some guidance along the way about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, found partners that were doing it and just being able to piggyback on seeing how they've done it on other projects and other properties, and then also getting the right partners just on your team, right? You get a closing attorney in the state, you have a CPA that's relegated with syndications and others, then you get a syndication attorney that can handle all your paperwork, finding the right property manager and the right broker relationships. And that's all the part of the process, is that we do it at a point where when we're going out there to buy multifamily, we basically learn what we're doing first, learn the terms, learn how to underwrite properties. Then we find the market. Then now we start making our relationships and building our team, start finding, our bank, start finding our broker, start finding all of our property managers, our insurance partners. After we've done all that, then we start offering on properties. And we actually, and the one part is even starting to having investor talks. We'll do that before finding the property. Because
that's very good idea. Instead of scrambling after the fact to find the money.
Yeah. Because you don't want to be desperate. You want to find a good opportunity that people can be with you. You don't want to find the opportunity and then need the money, because these are great opportunities if you find a good thing, but you want to see and be able to help people along with their financial journey, not need the money because you have a closing date that's looming on you 20 days out.
I've been there, man. I know that pain. It's no fun whatsoever. Awesome stuff, Jason. Well, as usual, I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent. So thanks for going along on that trip with me, man. Now, when it comes to you sound like a very sharp guy. So when it comes to real estate,
Tell my wife that. I appreciate that. So.
When it comes to real estate investing, we've all got what Kiyosaki calls our unfair advantages. So what would you say is your unfair advantage or your superpower when it comes to real estate investing?
I'm probably more stubborn than most people. And that comes from, being surrounded by a bunch of Italians that I'll hear no 6,000 times, but no, there's a yes somewhere. And that goes with everything. And so my employees, they all know that. They'll keep saying, well, they said no. Well, I said, well, just keep asking, because sooner or later that no becomes a yes. You just got to find the right way to ask it or the right person to ask it to. Very
good advice. The other part of the question was, for those of us that suck at getting no's and aren't very persistent after that, what would you suggest would be a kind of a good way to get over that and you grew up in a family where it sounds like that's part of your DNA, but for the rest of us, what would you suggest to get better at that?
Well, no one likes rejection, right? And again, like it's on anything. Let's just say, okay, let's talk about raising money, right? You're going to go out there and get told no a bunch because really you're not good at what you're doing, the way you're presenting it or even talking about it or learn those points, but you need those no's to be able to understand what the yes looks like and to appreciate the yes. And if the sun never came up, you would never know how great it is to have the sun out. So for us to be able to go out there and have those talk tracks, we can learn how to talk to investors, how to make this a better opportunity to them, how to present them. And those no's come along with great questions that we can reform our conversation for the future. So talking with brokers, like everybody started somewhere. And I think some of the hard points, even when going to these big properties, well, how am I going to talk to, a person and raise money from if I haven't done this before? Well, how am I going to talk to a broker who's got, they sold $100 million of property? Well, did they always from day one out of the womb sell $100 million worth of property? No, they started somewhere, probably in the same sheet, as some junior broker or junior assistant worked their way up. And now here they are. So it's being respectful with their time, being spot on with being specific what you want, that really helps you along the way. I find that you get a lot of no's if you go in there and just say, hey, I want to buy large multifamily. Well, that means nothing. You know, the brokers say, well, okay, great. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? New construction, this. But if you go in there and say, I want to buy BC assets, 75 to 100 units in the south central submarket of Louisville, built in 1970 to 2000, garden style construction, that's my focus. Well, now the broker is going to say, gotcha. Okay, cool. Let me see what I have.
Right.
Now you have a much better talk.
And it shows them that you know what the heck you're talking about as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And engage the conversation. You'll get a lot more yeses if you're specific.
Good point. Good advice there. So, Jason, we're wrapping up here. We've got a couple of minutes. I know that you and your wife, Pili, also offer coaching and assistance for people that want to get into multifamily investing. If somebody wants to find out more about you guys and what you're up to, what should they do? Where should they go?
Sure. They can go to our website, Yarusi Holdings, YARUSI Holdings.com. On there's a link to meet Jason and Pili. You can schedule a call with us and we can talk about your multifamily goals and see if things align.
That sounds good. And do you have any resources or anything like that for folks that are interested in kind of dipping their toe in and finding out a little bit more about you? Or you got some stuff on the site as well? I know you got a podcast as well, so they can listen to that too, right?
Sure. Yeah. The podcast with my wife. And so you get a lot more content from me. Or from her, I just stand there and give thumbs up, but it's the Real Estate Investing Foundation podcast with Jason and Pili. Also podcasts like yourself. I mean, we're in a world now where there's just so much information, right, that you can get on and you know, in a car ride or sit there, you know, I don't know, on the subway or wherever you're going, you can have access to all these resources where before you had to go search out this people to be able to give this or find books. Well, now you have everything, you know, on your phone. So there's just so many resources out there where you can dial in. Just as we've both said, don't get lost in the shiny object syndrome of having 9,000 points. You know, find your focus with a podcast and go out there and try it and see.
Give it the 6 months, like you said. That's very good advice. Yeah, that's good stuff. All right. So just in the last 30 seconds or so, any actionable tip besides, you know, give it a good shot? Any other actionable tip to leave people with if they're interested in multifamily investing?
Give yourself 3 action items and go out there and do it. Whether that's, you know, find your focus, make 5 calls, and go out there and make an offer. And if you do this, you know, if you make an offer, you can always say no. You can always not go on that point. I promise you, no one's going to take your dog or something if you go out there and make an offer. There's not something magical that's going to happen. People get fearful of the ends of this. But go out there and take action. You'll find that it will make it so much easier the next time you take action. But that first time is going to be really tough.
Awesome, my friend. Well, very nice meeting you. Thank you very much for your insight and your wisdom on this podcast. Really appreciate it, Jason.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks very much for checking out the Property Profits podcast. And if you like what we're doing here, please head on over to iTunes, subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. Be very, very much appreciated. And if you're looking to create a regular flow of inbound investor inquiries about your real estate deals, then I invite you to attend one of my upcoming live online demonstrations. And you can check that out at investorattractiondemo.com. Take care.